Good morning and welcome to Hidden Gems, where we try to show you features of the product or techniques that we think you will find useful. My name is Arden Thomas. I'm the Cincom Smalltalk product manager. Today I'm excited to bring you a new Hidden Gems. We're going to be discussing a number of tips altogether and a number of short discussions. We'll basically touch on things that we have in the past. I'll talk briefly about some navigation tips. We'll talk about using TLS to get data, how to parse some of that data. We've discussed before some drawing capabilities and techniques. We'll talk a little more about that. And we'll do all this in the DomainMaster framework that we've introduced. And we haven't talked about this before, but we'll introduce some capabilities of Text2 that we'll use. For one example, this window we're looking at right here is all done in Text2 for this display. Back in a moment. Okay, welcome back. The first tip, the environment and navigation tip I want to mention is actually one of my favorites, probably maybe my very favorite. Open up a browser. Size it to something appropriate that you want to see frequently, close it. Now when you open it, it will be that size for every one you open. Go to Package, Spawn, and find components connected to and the name of your repository. You can close that original window. So now we have just the packages and bundles from your repository. Of course, to get to everything, it's very quick and easy to do that. One button press to get everything again, if you want to see that. But if you want to focus on working with just your packages, this is a very simple, effective way that I use all the time. So let's take a look at some TLS and getting data. There is a website, IEX, that will provide some data for us. Let's see, raw data for data URL prefix. I'll show you the prefix. API to IEX trading. This is our prefix. We can get data for a stock. This is the symbol for Apple computer. So let's take a walk through this. I'm going to debug raw data for. First, I'm saying set security suites. If you have issues with getting information connecting to that website, and it's particularly if it's HTTPS, sometimes you need to specify which ciphers you want to handshake with and what order in order to have a successful if you're having issues. So here's where we can specify in this technique right here. First, I'm telling it for bcrypt interface to be our default. Here we're resetting, and then I'm telling it to use these two ciphers in this order to try to do the handshake, and that in fact works. I'm creating an HTTP client, giving it its URL. The first time I call it, it may not know the certificate. This adds the certificate. I can then recall this method. You can also try saying restart to the exception. I've had some issues with that, so I'm simply recalling the method. So I have done this before. So it knows the certificate. It will get the response body as string, and that is the raw data. And if I look at the raw data, I can see the format is actually in JSON. It is the JSON format and has the information for the open, high, low, close, and volume for each day that I've gotten for Apple computer. Now, in the past, we have written our own JSON parser. This time I'm going to show you how to use the JSON parser that's built into the system. You can also go back and use the one that we created which is perfectly fine too, and gives you a little more flexibility if you want to do something different or change up something, or maybe your source isn't, if the source isn't quite 100% accurate, valid JSON or is close, you may need to tweak that. In those cases, using your own is fine. This time we're going to use our own. Back in a moment. Okay, welcome back to Hidden Gems. This time we're going to talk about parsing. Again, Hidden Gems is where we show you useful techniques that you may or may not know about that we hope you will find useful and can use them. We're going to talk about parsing. Last time we talked about how to go to a website and retrieve some data, which we've done right here. The data is in the JSON format. So what we're going to do, let me walk through this. Self-series for AAPL, which is the symbol for Apple Computer. Going to debug this. And we're going to get the raw data in the manner that we just showed you. And that is the data, open, high, low, close, and volume information for the last month for Apple Computer for each of the last 30 days. Using the API we showed you. Now, to use the built-in Extremes JSON parser, this says if JSON's nil, we bail out. All you have to do is say extremes.json decode JSON. Let's see what that gives us. We'll hand it the JSON right here, and the results are a collection of dictionaries. Each dictionary has the information we're looking for. So it has the date, close, low, open, volume. VWAP is something called a volume weighted average price. So we have all that information parsed and handed back to us in a convenient form in a dictionary. We're going to take that form and we're going to create our own object, a daily datum. Datum is singular for data. A daily so for this daily price information, we're going to give it the date. And we're going to give it all this information right from the resulting JSON dictionary that we get that from parsing the JSON. And we'll convert these things into a date. We'll convert each one into a number and create that. And then we'll create a daily series. So let's actually go through and do this and see what that result is. So let me inspect that. We can see this is a daily series. It shows me just the dates, for example, and the data of each daily datum that we created. Now we can ask this daily series for a lot of, it will have its own API that we're going to use and leverage in some of the next topics. So again, we showed you how to retrieve the JSON information from a website, in this case for the last 30 days of Apple Computer, and take that JSON, parse it, take the results, and create our own data structure that we will use effectively in the upcoming ones. Next time now we're going to talk about drawing. We're going to take this series and we're going to draw with it. We have a whole menu of different things that we're showing you this time. We're going to talk about drawing. First, we're going to talk a little bit about something interesting with Text2 related to drawing, and that is something called sparklines. Sparklines is a way to create embedded in your text essentially a little chart, a little visual line that can be interesting, and it's embedded right in the text. This is called a sparkline. So how do you create a sparkline? Well, here's something I've done. Here's our API to get series data for a stock. We get the closes from that, so we've got data to display. We say text2.documentSpark. We give it the data, and we tell it its style. And See, we have a document and we insert this Spark we just created in that document. So I write the stock symbol, the sparkline, and then a carriage return. And what might that look like? Well, let's look at this app. See, this is Stock Spark app. I'm going to open the app and then tell it get the stock, which is IBM, and let's run that. And there it is. There's the symbol, and there's actually the data embedded right in the text as a sparkline. So we can do more with that. We can have a multi-select list. Let's choose something. I'm going to Control Shift some more things, and we can kind of basically get a glimpse of what the stock prices of these 3 stocks have done in the last 30 days. So that is Text2 sparklines, one technique that you should know about for drawing, and that is how to do it. Well, let's look at some more things. Let's look at how to draw on a view using the model view controller architecture. I've created a simple chart view, which is a subclass of view. One of the primary things for drawing basically is display on : GC is for graphics context. And this is basically how to draw on this graphics context. Model is going to be our stock object. I can ask that stock object for its display points. And the display points in this case are simply going to be a collection of points with an X and Y. A point has an X and Y that I want to display in that. I can create a polyline, give it the points, and say display stroked on. Generally, there's 2 things display. So for example, if you have a rectangle, you can display stroked on, which will display the outline of the rectangle, or display filled on, which will fill the rectangle. So here we have a polyline of many points, and we're going to display it stroked on. That will draw the line. And then we're going to come back to each point and display a dot at that point. And we'll see what that looks like. So let's hop back to our examples here. We'll have a simple chart, and we will open it up. And there it is. There is the polyline displayed, and then at each point it draws a dot of diameter 8, so we can see where the closing price for each day is. And that is a very basic, simple drawing, which is done. And of course, now using our DomainMaster framework, we can easily build up something a little more by plugging in that simple chart and a list. I've given it the list, and then I've told to subset the list to the stocks that are in the Dow Jones Industrial Average. And I can see it's retrieving the data for each of these live. It's pulling the data down and then displaying that data for the last 30 days for each of these. So that is a straightforward way to display. You can see it's pretty basic here. We get the points, polyline vertices, display stroked on, and we come back and display each dot. But what if we want something fancier? Well, we can do that too. There are types of charts known as candlestick charts, which displays, I'll show you what that looks like. Basically, we're figuring all this out. It's pretty straightforward, but obviously a little more involved to display that. And what it looks like is this. Let's choose Apple. So here's a candlestick for this day. It opens here at the bottom of the box. It closes at the top of the box. The top here is the high point for the day, and the bottom stick is the low point for the day. If it's an up day, it's white. If it's a down day, it is black. So we have the code that has displayed this, and again, we can go through and basically see. It conveys a little more information than basically just the closing data, or even high-low close bars, which is another technique for drawing these. This one was a little more interesting, so I wanted to show you basically how it could be done. So that's it for drawing, where we've basically showed you how to get the data, how to create a custom view with a model view controller to do that. Let's just show you quickly how that's integrated. So here's the simple chart app. Initialize, we say, okay, the view is my view class new, my view class here, simple chart view. And then we tell the view, the model, we're saying it's this app itself. So now the view can come to the model to get the data to display. And finally, if we want to interact with the chart, we can also build a controller, which we'll do at a future screencast. So this is the model view controller architecture, drawing with a custom view class that we've embedded in this application. And there we go. I hope you've got something out of this. If you have any questions or suggestions, or you want to see this code, or you want to know how any of it operates, please contact me at athomas@cincom.com. I hope you've got some ideas for some techniques of things that you can do in your own application. You can just do so much with Smalltalk. Until next time, have a great time with Smalltalk.